January 10th, about 2 p.m. Central. And I'm doing an update on S&P the next couple of weeks, and also a little hint at the yearly forecast, which I'm still preparing. It's a little more lengthy. So we have been looking at the 7-month cycle. That's what you saw in the last video, had a high on the 6th and a low on the 11th or the 19th. That was based upon the Moon K2 conjunction sequence. And if you do 8 of those, it turns out to be 7 months and 5 days. However, the Moon has other cycles, which are not exactly the same, but they're close. And it turns out the actual lunar cycle, the 27.5-day Moon position through the zodiac, has been a little more accurate lately and is distorting the cycle just a little bit, so that the high came out there on the 9th instead of the 6th, half a day later. But the question is, will it continue to follow the path that we had laid out? And the answer is probably yes. If you take a look at the chart that is here, this is 7 chunks of time. The little squares, the little blue squares and rectangles, are exactly 1 month apart. And in 6 of the last 6 months, you had a decline. And it started, which would have been the equivalent of the 9th, based on the Moon alone. And it goes down to the 18th. And each one, with the exception of one of them, was fairly large, 200 to 300 S&P points. And the low point that comes out based upon this would be around the 18th or 19th, so that we're expecting it to continue down next week after the 11th, and that the lowest low is probably going to come in on the 19th. The other thing that's important is that the bigger picture is that the market is probably preparing a bottom which is going to hold for a long time. We're looking at this decline as probably a corrective wave rather than a new impulse wave to the downside. The October lows are probably going to hold, and it's very likely that going forward after February and March, where there could continue to be some gyrations, that the market is likely to mount a rally and be significantly higher 12 months from now. I want to put that out there because I haven't done the yearly forecast. And the bottom line of the yearly forecast is the market's going to go up. However, between now and March and potentially even June, the market will go up and down and up and down. It won't be very clear what it's doing. It will have a stronger rally than expected into the March 10th high, which was projected by the 7-month cycle, which is reinforced by other things. An interesting point is alternate years tend to agree with each other. There's a 2-year cycle, and every other year tends to be opposite. So like last year, we had a high around January 5th and a low around March 15th and a sharp rally. This year, we're probably going to see something not exactly, but similar to the opposite of that, where there's some sort of a low around early January, or it's going to turn out to be a little later in January, and a high around the middle of March, and then a sharp breakdown, the opposite of the 15% rally we had last year. So just want you to note that. I'm updating the Moon K2 cycle as well. It turns out the number of trading hours over the 2 holidays have distorted when you overlay one on top of the other, it's slightly distorted, and it does indicate that the high would come in slightly later than we thought on the 6th, but nevertheless, we are probably going to see a decline. It might congest a little bit before the decline really gets going. Today, though, on the 10th, it's doing very little. It's a little bit up. But market should work down into the 18th and possibly have a 200 to 300 point break. All righty? On that note, take care.